Hi Team Value, JJ here, welcome back. Well, today I'm going to react to the latest interview with legendary investor Stan Druckenmiller. He's had an incredible record over multiple decades, and today he's talking about AI. He's invested in Nvidia. He's talking about his thoughts on AI and what he thinks is going to happen over the next decade or so, and where he sees the market at the moment. So let's get into it.
You were early with Nvidia. You were early with AI. You pared back a little bit, but are not less bullish on the prospects for it, are you?
Well, first of all, I wasn't early with NVIDIA. My young partner was early with NVIDIA. He called me in the fall of 22 and said that he thought all this excitement about blockchain was going to be far outweighed by AI. And I asked him how to play it, and he told me I should buy this company, NVIDIA. I didn't even know how to spell it. I bought it. Then a month later, ChatGPT happened. Even an old guy like me could figure out, okay, what that meant. So I increased the position substantially. I said in an interview in June of that year that I expected to own NVIDIA for 2 or 3 years, that this was a mega trend like I'd never seen, potentially bigger than the internet. But when the stock went from 150 to 900, I'm not Warren Buffett. I don't own things for 10 or 20 years. I wish I was Warren Buffett. And 150 to 900, yes, we did cut that position and a lot of other positions in late March.
Okay, so he has cut the position at about 900. He said in March, we'll take a look at the Nvidia graph and see where that was, but it looks like that was pretty near the top so far, around 900. We'll see what happens, but he's cut it back. I did do a video when Stan Druckenmiller had an interview in June of last year when he was talking about owning it for 2 to 3 years. I think it was around $400 back then, and it skyrocketed after that. So he did get the timing right. He credited his younger partner, I guess, an analyst, and he's done very well out of it. Now let's take a quick look at Nvidia stock of where Stanley Druckenmiller sold, where he trimmed back. And this is on finchat.io, which I've started using, and I'll leave a referral link in the description. You get 15% off if you want to start using this as well. I'm finding it really useful. You can listen to the earnings calls right here on the interface and all sorts of useful metrics. But let's today have a look at the share price. So we go to total return, and year to date, it's nearly up 88% this year still, and over the past year it's up 210%. So it's done so well, as he said. And if we go back to see where he trimmed, he said late March. We changed to price so we can see the price here, and it got to 950. So it sounds like he trimmed around 900. He thought that was expensive. Now, the video I made last year about mid-June where Stan Druckenmiller was talking about his holding in Nvidia, and I'll put a link to that in the description. About the 15th of June, we can see it was well over $400, and he said it was in nosebleed territory there, but he had no plans to sell it. He said it could go on for 2 or 3 years yet. And then, of course, this massive run up to 900, and it sounds like he's trimmed back substantially, just like Warren Buffett has trimmed back Apple. So that both of these great investors have started trimming back. Warren Buffett was talking about how he couldn't find any good deals in the market. Two very different investors, but legendary investors that have had amazing returns over time. Here we can see on finchat.io price targets, and obviously there's a variation there. Big variation on what could happen there. And outperform, there's 10, no opinion, 11. I kind of have no opinion on price targets. I don't do price targets. I like to look at companies and see how they perform long term, but I have no near term price targets. Analysts do, Wall Street does, but there's a buy rating 40 on here, so people are still bullish on Nvidia from here. Stan Druckenmiller not so much in the short term, but as he said, long term bullish, not just on Nvidia. He was talking about AI in general. And here we have price target revisions. As you can see, analysts change their price targets over time based on what's happening with the stock, what's happening with the company over time. But there's a lot of people still bullish on Nvidia, even though it's got to over 900, well over 900. Let's see what else he has to say.
I just need a break. We've had a hell of a run. A lot of what we recognized has become recognized by the marketplace now.
It's important to him to recognize what's going to be in the future, and he obviously thinks that, you know, the stock market has recognized this now. It's gone up so much. There's so many eyes on it.
Powell was We expected Powell to come back and repivot, which he subsequently did. But no, long term, we're as bullish on AI as we've ever been. You just wonder, if we were all sitting here in 1999 talking about the internet, or anybody was talking about it, I don't think anybody would have estimated it would be as big as it got in 20 years. We didn't have the iPhone, we didn't have Uber, we didn't have Facebook, yada, yada. And yet, if you bought the NASDAQ in 99, it went down 80% before that all came to fruition. That's not going to happen with AI, but it could rhyme. AI could rhyme with the internet as we go through all this capital spending we need to do. The payoff, while it's incrementally coming in by the day, the big payoff might be 4 to 5 years from now. So AI might be a little overhyped now, but underhyped long term.
He has said things like this before. Back in that video last year in June, he did say that it was in nosebleed territory, Nvidia, and that was way before it ran up to where it is now. So he knows that it's hype, but he still owns it, although he's cut back. I don't know how much he's cut back. It'd be interesting to know just how much he's cut back. Did you catch that? He also said that it's rhyming with the internet, meaning the internet bubble, the dot-com bubble, talking about 1999 and how these things take a long time to play out. Even though, as we know, the dot-com bubble did, as he said, go down 80%. Amazon went down over 90%. But then, 10, 20 years later, that's when it really kicked in. The cash flows kicked in and the growth in companies like Google and Amazon. And then Meta came later. It didn't even exist back then in 1999. So he's thinking long-term here, but short-term overhyped, long-term underhyped, just like the internet has been. Now, if you think you're getting value out of the Stan Druckenmiller episode so far, I really appreciate it. If you remember to smash that like button to help the algorithm to spread it to more people. Thanks.
You said you're not like Warren Buffett, but what you just did with Nvidia sounds an awful lot like what he did with Apple. He pared his position in Apple by 13% and then went on to say it's a better company than Coca-Cola or American Express or any of the other companies that they have in their portfolio. And he thinks Tim Cook is great.
Yeah, well, I will be very surprised if I don't own Nvidia on and off the next 10 years.
He's known to trade in and out. He could say that he's keen on something and then sell out of it a week later. It's very different to Warren Buffett in that way, not long term. He's more of a macro investor, looking at trends, looking at momentum. But, he said he wished he was Warren Buffett, but he has had an incredible track record. When he had a fund, I think he's a family office now, so it's harder to know what's going on. But when he did have an investment fund, he got 30% a year compounding for 30 years. And he did say in an interview, in that same interview last year, I think, he said that that track record has continued, even though he's more private about it now. So he's done very well. And he did learn from George Soros. Of course, he's talked about that at length. And during the internet bubble, he talked about that he lost a lot of money, but he also made it back within a year. So he went in almost at the top. So he's learned a lot. He knows a lot from back then. And his experience in that, I think, is probably doing him well, and that's why it's worth listening to what he's saying here. He's had so much experience in losing money and making a lot and compounding for decades, just like Warren Buffett, although Warren Buffett has been going for more than 55 years at this point.
You're so bullish on AI that, Andrew, you did a great interview with Perplexity, and I think that's where you decided might be a place that you want to be.
I love Perplexity. Again, a funny story, my young partner, the one who has basically been behind all our AI play with his staff, he told me, I don't know, in January, that all the kids on the West Coast weren't using ChatGPT or Google anymore. They were using this thing called Perplexity AI. So I, of course, tried it out, and it was just unbelievable. It's an answer machine, but the speed, but the depth of the answers and the quality, and then the fact that they give you the sources if you want to go deeper, it was nothing like I've ever seen. If you don't believe me, just ask ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity a question and get the answer, and you'll see you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Right. I fell so in love with it. We tried to get in on a round that we were lucky enough to be accommodated. I love the founder, Aravind Srinivas. He's super aggressive and with his team super innovative, but he's also got humility. He's everything we love in a founder. So there's a land grab going on now in the answer machine business. It's obviously a big task to take on Google, but if you think about it, Google has 300 billion in sales. If Perplexity even goes to 2 billion in sales, it'll be a huge winner. Frankly, I'd say 95% of my searches now I use Perplexity. Probably the best thing I could do for the viewers today, unless they're listening to all my other stuff. Try this thing out. You'll love it.
Obviously, talking his book there, being an early investor in Perplexity. I have been trying it. It's good. It's really good. So this is Perplexity here, and I asked Perplexity who owns Perplexity, and we can see here it lists the co-founder that Druckenmiller was talking about there, who has been the co-founder since 2022. So this is pretty new. Of course, AI and these large language models are new. These are the sources that he was talking about here. It lists the sources. I asked follow-up questions and it did go in depth. It does seem to be better at answering questions, I think, than ChatGPT or Google Gemini. So is this a competitor? Is this going to be a fierce competitor disrupting Google? A lot of investors don't think so. Bill Ackman said that Google will be fine, but it's going to be really interesting to see how this play out. And this is something to keep an eye on, I think. And Stanley Druckenmiller was into it early on. Now, although I think it's a great company, I'm not invested in Nvidia. I like smaller companies, as those in my Patreon community know. What do you think of Nvidia? Do you think that it's going to keep on going from where it is? Do you think it's a bubble? Do you think that Stan Druckenmiller's done the right thing by pulling back? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a link here to that previous Stan Druckenmiller episode where he's talking about his investment in Nvidia at Nosebleed levels nearly a year ago. And I will put a link in the description as well for those watching or listening elsewhere. And thanks to everybody for watching or listening to this one, and I'll see you in the next one.